Good morning, evening, or night, wherever you are. Welcome to WHAM today. Take a deep breath, clear your mind, and let's drift through the whispers of today's world, one quiet thought at a time, as we wrap up Saturday, 19th April, 2025. Let's see what stories are unfolding around us. The United States is seeing its new ambassador to Japan arrive in Tokyo, signaling hopes for a tariff agreement, even as trade friction with China intensifies due to new port fees on Chinese vessels. This tension is causing a decline in Chinese onshore stocks and an uptick in asset transfers out of the U.S. by Chinese clients, according to Deutsche Bank. Shein and Temu are expected to raise U.S. prices because of policy changes and new tariffs. The International Monetary Fund, IMF, predicts that rising U.S. tariffs will weaken the global economy and increase inflation. A drop in tourism to the U.S. is contributing to lower oil prices, specifically for West Texas Intermediate crude. Stephen Miran, chairman of the U.S. President's Council of Economic Advisers, is urging other nations to increase their contributions to global public goods. U.S. stock indexes mostly rose, though a drop in United Health Group shares impacted Wall Street. The U.S. is reportedly planning to sign a minerals deal with Ukraine next Thursday. In Yemen, Houthi rebels claim that U.S. airstrikes on an oil port have resulted in 74 deaths and 171 injuries. Meanwhile, China sees Gerald Yinzhao, the 81-year-old founder of Chinese semiconductor equipment maker AMEC, renouncing his U.S. citizenship amid escalating tech tensions. The country's onshore stocks are declining amid escalating trade tensions, exacerbated by the U.S. imposing fees on Chinese ships docking at U.S. ports. Deutsche Bank has observed an increasing trend of Chinese clients moving assets out of the United States. Shein and Temu are set to increase U.S. prices in response to policy changes affecting their operations, including new tariffs. Shifting to the European Union, the CEO of French luxury conglomerate LVMH is advocating for a free trade zone between the EU and the U.S. to alleviate trade tensions. Europe is also preparing to retaliate should trade talks with the U.S. prove unsuccessful. In Yemen, Houthi rebels report that U.S. airstrikes on an oil port resulted in 74 deaths and 171 injuries. Elsewhere, U.S. tariffs are prompting a relocation of Bitcoin mining equipment from Asia. An Australian crypto entrepreneur, Mario Knopfel, is hosting chats with world leaders, potentially influencing U.S. policymakers. China faces a multifaceted economic situation, struggling with deflation, trade disputes, and domestic hurdles. U.S. gas exports to China have stopped because of tariffs imposed by Beijing, which affects Chinese energy companies that used to provide U.S. LNG to Europe. After 10 years, the Made in China 2025 initiative has not met its goals. Amid rising trade tensions, Premier Li Qiang has emphasized the need for positive market expectations. Fitch reports that standards have been tightened to restrict many local government financing vehicles, LGFVs, from selling bonds in Shanghai, as China aims to reduce their debt by 2028. Adding to the economic stress, Apple's smartphone shipments in China decreased in the first quarter. China and the U.S. are still fighting about talking, and progress is slow. Brazil experienced a short trade deficit with China in February, mainly due to a surge in Chinese imports, including solar panels. The United States is dealing with ongoing trade friction with China, highlighted by tariffs and investigations. The halt of U.S. gas exports to China, caused by Beijing's tariffs, is affecting Chinese energy firms that previously sold U.S. LNG to Europe. Wells Fargo has warned that soybean exports are at risk due to recent increases in trade tensions started by the Trump administration. NVIDIA's CEO, Jensen Huang, met with Chinese trade officials in Beijing amidst an investigation into NVIDIA's chip sales in Asia. Humanoid experts suggest Tesla's plans to produce the Optimus robot for us $20,000 may be threatened by the US-China trade war, which may put mass production on hold. Turning to Nepal, an investigation has uncovered corruption in the China-built Pokhara International Airport, which is struggling with financial issues because of a Chinese loan. India's financial markets have shown remarkable resilience, bolstered by strong retail investor participation, even with looming concerns about tariff wars disrupting global supply chains and investment. The Indian stock market, specifically the Nifty 50 and Sensex, has spearheaded the global equity recovery. This performance is attributed to domestic stability and a perceived easing of trade tensions, which has attracted significant investor interest. Despite this positive trend, Indian giants like TCS and Infosys face potential challenges in fiscal year 2026 due to uncertain client spending and the potential impact of US tariffs. Infosys' Q4 results showed an 11.75% drop in consolidated net profits, leading to mixed analyst predictions for the stock. The Indian stock market was closed on Friday, April 18th, in observance of Good Friday. Turning to the United States, the U.S. Federal Reserve has expressed growing concerns about economic uncertainty arising from the Trump administration's tariffs and the continuing trade war. These factors could have an impact on Indian markets despite their current resilience. Ukraine has signed an outline of a minerals deal with the U.S. The details remain unspecified. Adding to the geopolitical landscape, Senator Marco Rubio suggested the U.S. could cease its peace promotion efforts in Ukraine if significant advancements are not made swiftly. The United States saw President Trump engaging with Italian Prime Minister Giorgia Meloni at the White House, where they reinforced their special relationship and tackled the contentious issue of trade tariffs. Meloni, advocating for both Italy and the broader European Union, pressed for sustained tariff relief. Trump reciprocated by accepting Meloni's invitation to visit Rome. Separately, the U.S. is reportedly considering a proposal involving lighter sanctions on Russia as part of a potential peace agreement with Ukraine. Senator Chris Van Hollen also engaged with Kilmar Abrigo Garcia in El Salvador, a figure the Trump administration acknowledges was mistakenly deported. Turning to Indonesia, the country is weighing a substantial purchase of U.S. weaponry as a strategic move to potentially offset the threat of tariff. In Japan, inflation has continued its upward trend, reaching 3.6% year-on-year in March. This marks the third consecutive year that it has exceeded the Bank of Japan's target of 2%. The Japanese Nikkei 225 also experienced gains, mirroring a recovery in US stocks. Meanwhile, Myanmar has experienced an earthquake that analysts believe may have disrupted China's rare earth supplies due to damage to mines and transportation infrastructure. Lastly, in the pharmaceutical sector, Eli Lilly has announced the development of a new daily oral medication that exhibits comparable safety and effectiveness to injectable treatments like Ozempic for weight management and blood sugar regulation. Defense is France's new 21st century luxury good. And that's a wrap for today's news, because even headlines need a nap. Stay curious, stay kind, and let the noise fade as you find your quiet. Take care, stay awesome, and I'll see you next time on WHAM Today.